Hey everyone, my name's Ben, this is the mini painting page and welcome. Today what we're going to be going over is a nice lava base which is eye-catching and quite simple to make. We can use this for various armies. We could have space marines travelling across an alien planet. Alternatively, we could recreate scenes from things like Lord of the Rings or from Star Wars. So let's not waste any more time, jump in and see how we do it. Starting off, we are going to need a few of the basics. In this case, we are starting with a base and some cork sheets, which will form the main bulk and layout building blocks of the base. We can glue down the thin sheet of cork across the top of the base. Then once this is dry, work around and push the base through the cork, breaking off the excess, which will leave us with a nice disc of cork and help to add some height and texture to the edges of the base. Then we can add the additional items that we're using. This could be one large rock protruding from lava, or potentially pieces of technology if we want more of a science fiction feel. Or, as in this case, we're going to use a collection of smaller rocks with lava running through the middle. Once we have our chosen items, we can look to super glue these down. We can take the super glue, stick this down without any issues at all, and then if there is any seepage from the super glue, we can get out a trusty item, which is the remains of cork bark from when it has been sanded to be able to meet flush with a base. This can just be sprinkled on, and what it will do is Loctite in with that super glue and also make a nice gradual difference and fill in any small gaps between the cork flat disc as well as the cork bark that we've used on top. We are using cork bark here, but equally you could use something like slate or garden rocks that you have lying around, providing they're the right scale and look that you're going for. Once all of this is dry, we can move across to some painting. And here what we want to do is start from a dark base coat. I'm opting to use a black here, mainly for the simple fact that I don't have any other dark coloured sprays. However, you could get away with a dark brown or a dark grey if you have it available. Once the chosen spray is dry, however, we can come back to the painting desk and lay down a heavy overbrush of white. This will help to pick out all of the texture from our cork bark or whatever we've used as substitute for rocks. We don't need to worry about the lava space for now, we'll be going over that later, so don't be scared if it gets a bit messy down there and we cover it in different colours. Once we're happy with the white textured dry brush and we're sure it's dry, we can move over to adding a little bit of variety of colour and tones to the rocks. And we achieve that by splashing a random selection of bright colours across the entirety of the base. We want to take these colours, thin them down slightly so that they stain the surface of the rocks, but do not leave a gloopy texture. We slap these colours all across the rocks in random fashions and random places. It doesn't matter too much if the colours mix on the base, as this will just add some extra colours and more nuance to the base. However, we do need to make sure that there is a certain amount of separation and drying between the bases. Otherwise, all the colours will mix and it will just turn into a consistent brown colour, which is not what we want. Once we've got the rocks covered in this myriad of colours and it is fully dry, we can move back to the previous step, which was a white dry brush or heavy overbrush. And here, this will bring the surface back to a similar area in colour, while maintaining all of the nuance we have across the rocks from the previous steps. Once this is dry and we are happy with the whole base being covered in these colours and this white, we can move on to the next step, and we need to make sure it's dry because the next step involves a thick coat of Nikon oil wash. With the Nikon oil, we just want to slap it all over the rocks, being quite heavy here, darkening the rocks down and bringing the white dry brush areas into more of a rockish grey and slightly obscuring some of the colours that we've added to add different tones on top of what we've got. Obviously, if you have a preferred way of painting rocks, you can do that here. However, this is just a speedy, quick and efficient way I found of making nice looking tabletop rocks without a lot of effort. Once the wash is dry, we have the option to come in and do another dry brush. However, this time what we're going to do is come in and use a warmer off-white, which is another colour, so we'll add a little bit more nuance and a little bit more warmth to the base without a lot of work. Once we've done this dry brush and we know it's dry, we can come in for a final wash of Nikon oil. And once that's dry, we can essentially stop there for the rocks if we like. Alternatively, we could go on to add some extra effects or styles that match the theming of the base, such as OSL for a lava base. For these effects, we want to keep it quick and we want to keep it simple. So what we're going to do is take some paints ranging from red through orange and into yellow. And starting with a watered down red, we're going to tint all of the lower parts of the rocks as well as all of the lower facing areas of the rocks. This can then be followed up with a dry brush once the red is dry, and we can dry brush in some orange. For this dry brush, we want to be going in a direction which is away from the light source. So for the lava, we want to be going directly away, catching mainly the downward facing areas and the upper raised edges. Once this dry brush is complete, we can then come in with a yellow dry brush, doing essentially the same thing, but being a little bit more tactical and narrowing the area we are catching to help build up the undersides and the edges with this brighter yellow, which is the sections that would be hit from the light emitted from where we are planning to put the lava. With our OSL and effects done, we can move on to the lava itself. And here is where we're going to need a few items that aren't your normal fare for the hobbyist. The first one is some sort of modelling gel or modelling paste. This one's from Winsor & Newton, and essentially it's a white gunky paste that is shapeable and will dry solid. The other thing is slightly more common nowadays in the hobby. That one is oil paints. These will be mixed together to start off and be the foundation of our lava. How we want to do this is take some of our paste or putty and then take a bright yellow oil paint. In this case, we're using cadmium yellow here, but there are other bright yellows available that should also work. The reason I'm using oil paint here is it seems to be the type of paint that desaturates the least when added to the white texture molding paste. So we want to mix those two together. And once we have a small amount of yellow texture paste, we can start to slap this down across the base. We want to take this yellow paste, and I would suggest using some sort of hard tool, a toothpick, spreader, or potentially one of those Games Workshop texture tools might work, and spread it across all of the areas where we want lava. Ideally, we do want to avoid getting lava in areas that we don't want lava. If we get halfway up the rocks, then we don't want it there. We can go in with a junk brush and some water, mop it up and whip it away quite quickly. However, if we leave it too long and it dries, it can be a bit of a pain to get off without damaging other areas that we've already painted. So the best bet is just try and be as cautious as possible while working at a decent speed in order to put down this texture paste across the bottom of the base. This is also the opportunity where we choose the depth of our lava and how far up the rocks it comes. Once we have the yellow paste covering where we want it, we can let this set, but we do need to shape it first. What we want to do is take a thin tool, such as a toothpick, and start to create channels or eddies in the lava to represent a high flow rate stream of lava. Alternatively, we could flatten it out and add small ripples to show a lava pool, as opposed to a flowing stream. It all depends on the sort of scene you're looking for. You could also sculpt lava going halfway up the rocks in a lava wave crashing into the scene. Whatever you fancy doing, just make sure the lava is shaped in the way that you like it, and it should dry solid. This brings us to our final few steps of painting. And again, we are going to need some oil paints for this. We are going to need a red and a reddish brown, or if there's a color that you like that you think will fulfill this function in one tube, let me know down in the comments below, because it would be easier to do that than mix these colors. But anyway, what we want to do is mix the reddish brown that we have and the red that we have in order to get a hot, warm, lava looking color. I'm sure you can think of the color that I'm talking about. If not, it's on the screen now because we've just mixed it up. What we want to do is take the reddish brown and the brighter red and make a simple oil wash. We do this by adding some of each of the paints into a little pot, in my case the back of a base, and add some oil thinners, mixing this together until we have a consistency similar to a Citadel wash or contrast paint. Then what we want to do is slap this quite heavily all across the yellow paste that is now dry. The oil paint should flow nicely all across the base and fill in all of the areas that we have sculpted into this gel. If we think we've been a little bit heavy at first, that's not a problem. We can come back with a brush and start to soak up some of that paint, because oil paints do take a little while to dry. This is probably the longest part of the base entirely, is leaving it to dry. First off for the texture gel itself, and then for this oil wash. The actual steps themselves in between are quite quick and efficient. So we just want to slap that down and then leave them to dry, potentially paint the army that is going to be stood on them. It should take roughly 24 to 48 hours for the oil wash to dry to a touch dry level. And this isn't too bad because it means that we can be painting our models while our bases are drying if we built our bases at the same time as building our models. Regardless of whether you varnish or not, the base is essentially done. All you have to do is give it a rim of your favorite color of black and we are good to go. If you liked this, but you're not particularly set on the lava theme, then you might like this playlist where we go over a bunch of different types of bases that are quite similar nature, easy to make, quick to replicate, because the intention is to have them for a larger army and make them available for everyone. So check out that, and if you don't have time right now, remember to subscribe and we'll see you next time.